What is going on, guys? It's Tony with Urban Girl Scout Media, living the dream as always, and coming to you today to do kind of a wrap-up of my December Magic the Gathering Arena experiment, and just kind of talk about what we did. So, to summarize it, we had, for the month of December, I wanted to put a focus on playing Historic Arena, best of one, and I wanted to use the Goblin deck to see how far I could get with it, or what results I could get with it, but focused on removing 4 Muxus from the deck. I mean, that to me is just something that, when you have a card that's that powerful, 4 of in a deck, it screams for a ban eventually. I'm surprised it hasn't been banned yet, but it made me realize, like, if we want Goblins to stick around, we have to be able to win other ways, and that's what this month was about. Overall, I had over a 50% winning percentage. That sounded really weird, but yeah, 50% wins. And it wasn't a terribly bad month. There was a few really weird matchups along the way. Euro, you know, those Simic decks, they're tough to fight. Those were one of the ones I did not perform well against. I think I had a below 50% win rate, which is fine. You know, you're not gonna. One thing about Goblins you have to be okay with is there's gonna be some matchups that you do really well with and some that you do really bad with. Another one that I really feel like I struggled with was actually any deck that really put a focus on enchantments and shrines. That was the troublesome spot for me, and I'll leave it at you know, not having the enchantment removal. I know shrines are technically enchantments, but there was a couple other decks out there floating around that I saw where they basically, you know, played that. The other one that was kind of interesting to see the results was energy. I thought that I did pretty poor against it, but I didn't. Like, I don't record and save every single match that I play with the intent of recording and putting it up. I went back and watched some of these, and I thought I did terrible against energy. I actually did a little bit better, close to 50%. I'm going to still say I was below. And then there was really one card that gave me fits. I know that this is supposed to be talking about the W's, but there was one card that really gave me fits, and that was Ugin. Ugin was really hard to combat. Once Ugin dropped, I generally lost every hand that he was on the field. Because he just clears out the board. So, in terms of wins, I matched up incredibly well with mono red aggro. Whatever variations there were out there, I matched up incredibly well. Goblins, I had an over 50% win rate against. Cat's Oven, or whatever the hell you want to call it, I did pretty well against that. Those were actually really favorable. And then some of the other decks out there, like Elves, I did pretty well against that. I'm trying to think of some of the other kind of archetypes. Mono Black, there's a lot of different builds of it out there, so it was tough to really sit there and say, well, I'm just doing great against Mono Black. There's a few builds where they focus on devotion versus like one of the builds that I have where it's more about the only devotion card in the entire deck is Gary. So it doesn't rely on devotion to win the game. And then Blue-White Flyers was another one, and Mono-White Life that I was pretty happy with my results. I was pretty happy with the way this turned out, and I thought that overall, you know, it was above 50% win rate, which is what I really wanted to focus on. I didn't care about anything other than what decks did I do good against, what decks did I do bad against. One of the ones that was really true coin flip, I mean, almost at 50% exactly, and I may have misquoted this in my last video, was Gruul Aggro. Surprising enough, Gruul Aggro was just, it's a tough deck to play against when you give up certain things with Goblins. Some of that control aspect, it does become an issue. Now, within the deck itself, there's a few cards that I really, really, really encourage people taking a strong look at and considering for the future. First, Rune Blaster. So, being able to destroy a non-basic land as early as turn 4 without any acceleration or anything is really helpful. That's valuable. There was more than a few times where I was able to cast that and get get rid of, you know, they would have maybe just blue-white plains and then, or blue-white land and then, you know, 2 plains. Let's get rid of that island. Let's get rid of that access to blue. Things like that, the card paid for itself. Gem Palm Incinerator was another one that I thought going into this, because I used to play a lot of Legacy Goblins, Gem Palm at one point was a 4 of. Got put down to a 2 of, and that's not just in Legacy, I'm talking about Historic as well. I started out kind of erroneously in this mindset of, well, we're just going to put 4 of in there, it's going to be a banger. The only times that I cast that as the creature and not for the cycling, it was because I was in a very bad spot. So I felt like that was a really good signal of the card's value, because there's only, if you're casting it for the creature, you're generally in a very bad spot. I did not find myself casting Gem Palm Incinerator, a 2/1 creature for 3 mana in a goblin deck. Like, that 3 mana has to be better used, so that's why the cycling is so important to get value out of, and with the draw and the ability to do some damage to a creature, it really was a good card, but no more than 1 or 2 in the deck. The other big changes I made, I tried Bromac Courier. I had mixed results with that. I think because I didn't want to use all the wild cards for it, so I only got to use it a few times, and mixed results. I'm going to be honest about that, but it did make me realize how good the card could be outside of the Goblin deck. Never really played it before, because just looking at it, I'm not a big fan of that risk of losing a card. But I think if you run 4 of, it's gonna make a huge difference. Goblin Trashmaster was another one I really enjoyed playing. So that is the Goblin Lord that also lets you sacrifice a Goblin to destroy an artifact. That was helpful. More often than I thought it would be. That was actually pretty big. There's a couple of flip artifacts. I definitely was able to get rid of an Aetherworks Marvel here and there. Sorry, I'm drinking my Vanilla Stout Big Muddy Brewery Company beer. So that was a really good card. And it, you know, the fact that it's a Lord, that's nothing to sneeze at. I mean, there was plenty of times where I got the Goblin War Chief out on turn 2 and then was able to get this on turn 3. That's pretty dangerous. So I was happy about that. And then really the card that I wanted to talk the most about was Krenko Mob Boss. This is the card that I think is most undervalued in Goblins, and this is the one that I actually want to get 4 of. But the build I ended up using for the last couple of days of the month, I had 3 of that and 2 of the Trash Masters in there, because it seemed to be running into a lot more artifacts, especially Aetherworks Marvel decks. And that energy ability, pretty much anytime that I saw that the artifact was going to make a huge difference in a game, there you go. Bada bing, bada boom. But Krenko, if you have a way to give it haste when it hits the board, it is deadly. Absolutely lethal, because you gotta assume that if you're able to give it haste, you have to put one other creature out. You gotta have a few creatures, hopefully. And that token ability is nothing to sneeze at, man. Like, I definitely saw that as the key going into this month, December ladder, where I thought, hey, if this is gonna work, it's gonna be Krenko as one of the big substitutes. And true to form, Krenko was one of the big substitutes to really help this deck go. And I will be completely open with this fact. There was nothing better, no better feeling than when I actually had to cast a monster. When I got the opportunity, because I did cast it, I'm not going to say I never used the damn card. It's a game winner, basically. When I would cast it, and I would get a Krenko off of it. Oh my goodness, that was great. That to me, because at that point, you're pretty much playing I'm going to whatever other abilities and then put out all these tokens and one big attack. Now the issue that this deck is always going to face is cards like Settle the Wreckage, or anything that really your opponent has an instant speed to kind of slow that combat down. That was something that really hurt those plans, but outside of that, man, Krenko with a little bit of haste. Settle the Wreckage is one of the only cards that really, like, just left a bad taste in my mouth during the attack phase for that. Like I said, overall, we did over 50% for the month, and I'm happy with that. Went from a Elite Gold 4 up to Platinum 3 at the height of my ranking. I did get bored. I'm not going to be able to play one deck the entire month, so I did have a few other decks that I ran. And even a new Goblin token build that I'm trying out. So hope to get some videos on that here soon. But my overall review is we can do it. We don't need more than 2 mugsticks to be competitive. How you tinker the rest of the way is really going to dictate that competitiveness. But I'm pretty open to the idea that Muxus is not a 4 of anymore for me and Goblins. Down the road, when I'm done trying to tinker and I've given up on life, I may go back to 3, but other than that, yeah, that's pretty solid work. Krenko, Goblin Trashmaster, so for January, I think I'm going to go back to the Mono Black Aggro. I've already started playing a few matches with that. It's January 1st, so make sure you guys check that out. It was fun. Thank you so much. This is Tony K with Urban Girl Scout Media, living the dream.